what was his language. I believe the language Adam spoke was an heavenly language. Because Adam came from the supernatural. He was given flesh on earth. And God introduced the first language to him. So it was God's language that was given to him. And he spoke it. It was the same language he gave to his children, his descendants. So everyone who descended from Adam were speaking that same language. It got to the time of Noah, they were still speaking that same language. And when Noah, after the flood, now with his children began to repopulate the earth, they were speaking that same language. No language had been spoken on earth. And that's why in Genesis chapter 11, the Bible tells us that the language of the earth was one language. Not many languages. There was no English, no French. There was no Chinese. Hello. There was no your own local language. Igbo language is not there. Yoruba was not there. Ikwere is not there. Calabar is not there. Okrika is not there. None of these languages existed then. One language. And that language I knew was from heaven. And that was the language they were speaking. And they understood themselves. But on this fateful day, the Lord God removed the language. And what came to the earth was diverse languages. Diverse languages. If you were to dramatize it, it was like somebody asking somebody to bring brick. And he knew what he was saying, bring brick. But the person was understanding something else. And when they could not understand themselves because of the diverse languages, the building of the city and the tower was abandoned. Not a single blow was dealt to that project. It was lack of communication or communication failure that stopped the project. So you see how powerful communication is. Hello. Communication. The absence of it can abandon any project in life. Most organizations that thrived on good communication, and most organizations that failed based on bad communication. When a communication is absent, what is left to any tribe or left to any people is confusion. So, as we read, the Lord God said the people is one, they have all one language, and this they begin to do now. Nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. So go to, let us. So the same God will introduce one language, later introduce multiple languages. Go to, let us confirm their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of the earth. They left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of the earth. So language is a spiritual thing. It's so common today. Somebody cannot look at you and ask you, do you know how to speak Ikwere? Someone says, do you know how to speak Okrika? Do you know how to speak? It's a spiritual thing. No language you are speaking today that just came. It was God that created it. Are you there? It was God that created it. Let me introduce danger of poor or broken communication. Prior to this time, when the world hasn't gone digital, but when it was still analog and communication was done in an analog way, telephones were vital to every country. The first two world wars, the First World War And the Second World War was fought with concentration on telephone lines. Anytime soldiers are able to seize the telephone line or the radio signal of a country, they take over the country. Without even shooting a gun, if they are able to just take the telephone line and take the radio line, the country is theirs. Back in the days in Nigeria, when coups were plotted, a successful coup is when you are able to seize the TV, the radio, and the telephone. If you are not able to seize the TV, the radio, and the telephone, your coup is a failure. If you can cast your mind back, though we are very small then, so we didn't know much, but when we read history, we were able to come abreast with it. It was said that the Gideon Oka coup was almost 60% successful. But one vital mistake was that they seized the airports, none went out, none came in. They seized the radio, but the TV was not in their hands, and the telephone lines were not in their hands. So quickly they went to announce that a new regime has come. Now, while they were making that announcement, the telephone was still in the hands of the incumbent. So with the telephone, they were able to call this and call that and call this brigade, call Dodan Barracks, call this, call that, call that. Are you getting that? So with all that now, they were able to put their men in place. And before this individual who masterminded the coup would know, they have seized vital areas by mere telephone conversation. Today, countries of this world do not take that risk. They put their telephone lines now in space. GSM. You call him. You know his number. You have his number. You call him. It does not go directly to him. It goes first to space. When he has gone to space, he will not come and enter his phone. Yes, that is how it is. Hello? That is how it is. It doesn't go to, though the person is by your side. Hello? But once you call him, the signal will first go to space. It will go outside space because it's traveling at a speed of 286,000. People have not checked that in for me. 286,000 miles per hour, I think so. Or yes, particle speed, because it's moving with particle speed. So it goes straight to space. It's almost like the speed of light. Almost the speed of light. And then comes into his phone. And that's why you don't feel it. Hello. So nations of the world today have carried all their gadgets to space. So there is no way that they can cut their communication line. It's impossible. Did you get that now? No way. Rather, what you do is that you go into what we call cyber warfare, where you try to corrupt, people's communication gadgets, networks, and activities. So, and it takes a lot of advanced warfare to be able to engage in cyber warfare. And presently, what is happening now in the world is that China and America, they're having cyber warfare. So warfare has gotten beyond what Russia is trying to do in Ukraine. Hello. Russia did it, and they see what happened to Russia. They began to cyber attack Russia and cripple the economy. It was then Russia realized that, wow, war is no longer the way it used to be. Countries are advanced. They know how to cripple you. It's not about shooting. They can cripple you without shooting a gun. So they learned their lessons from Second World War. How Hitler was able to overrun Europe, by seizing all telephone lines, radio lines, and before you know it, he has taken over the entire Europe. Now, that is nobody has time for that. Everything is in the sky. Everything is in the air. Everything is in space. So if you need to get it, then you spend so much to go there. So things have changed. Now, the danger of poor or broken communication. Go with me. Exodus chapter 12. Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians 4, 26 to 27. Paul advised believers not to allow communication to be broken for too long. And so he said, be angry. That is, to be angry is okay. Sin not. Let not the sun go down on your anger. Neither give place to the devil. Because the devil understands when communication is poor or is broken, he sneaks in. Between Adam and Eve, the moment the devil realized that the communication between them was poor, he entered. Between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, when your communication is poor, the devil enters. Between two friends, when your communication is poor or is broken down, the devil enters. He knows when communication is broken. And that is why Paul advised us, he said, be angry, but do not let the sun go down on your anger. It will give room for the serpent to enter. A broken communication invites the devil. Anger breaks communication. So that means don't let your communication be broken over a long period due to anger. Do well to reconnect as quickly as possible so that the devil does not attack your relationship, your marriage, etc., etc. Now, when I say relationship, there are other forms of relationship. Marriage is a love relationship. There are many forms of relationship. Some of you are into businesses, so your pals within business, you are in business relationship. You are in church relationship. Brother, sister. You are in family relationship with your cousins, aunties, and so on and so forth. So relationship is relationship everywhere. As long as two people are relating with themselves. People who less communicate often open door to other forces to interfere with their thoughts. When you less communicate, you open a door for interference on your thoughts. Adam and Eve paid dearly for this error. They were not good communicators at the beginning. This could have been perceived on how Eve replied to the devil, quoting her husband. God commanded the husband not to eat, but Eve interpreted to mean that God said. To say is different from to command. God said, the day we eat of it, we will die. He commanded. He commanded. And the Lord commanded. He commanded. Genesis chapter 2, 15 to 17. He commanded. He put him in the garden and then commanded him. Of every tree of the fruit of the garden you may freely eat. But of the tree of the garden, of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden, he said you should not eat. He commanded. Now, when the devil came to tempt her and then said to her, as God said that you should not eat of this fruit, he said, the Lord said that the day you eat of it. God didn't say. It's not a say, it's a command. There's a difference between saying something and then putting a command. Am I talking? Am I talking? So in Genesis chapter 3 verse 3, see our reply. Power of effective communication. Now, God acknowledged the power of effective communication in Genesis chapter 11 verse 6. The people is one. Now, nothing will restrain them, which they have imagined to do. Nothing. So it is difficult to put two people apart whose communication is effective. And people fear your communication, not your face. When people notice you and your spouse or you and your friend have a fine and very quality rapport, they shy away from intruding. But when they notice that you don't have a fine rapport, they try to sneak in. They try to enter. To want to find out the state of the heart of this person in relative to the other. And when they begin to speak things out, blah, 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 say, that's all. I've been observing it. That's what I wanted to hear. And if such a person is a serpent, he will go to the other person. When your communication is no longer qualitative, it will open a door for someone to enter with a dangerous idea, perhaps. When people sense that you have a poor communication, they can come to tell you what you are not prepared to hear. God gave two powerful gifts to marriage: sex and communication. And every couple should use them to their advantage. They play a vital role in cementing your marriage relationship. While sex binds their souls, communication, on the other hand, instills trust. Communication instills trust. Sex binds the soul, but communication instills trust. If it is only sex binding the soul without trust through communication, the marriage may not last. Hello? Yeah. It's when people talk, you learn to know their soul. Is that not true? Eh? There was once, I was admiring a particular, back many years ago, I was admiring a particular girl. I used to admire. Inside my heart, I used to like her. So, one day somebody provoked her. This person provoked her. She started spitting. Venom. Tap, 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 tap. I said, chew. Is that what is inside this person? On that day, she saw me and she greeted me. I greeted her. I was no longer patient with her. The communication was poor. And she did badly that day. She fought the person. Small thing that could be overlooked. She fought the person. Later she can open teeth. Had open teeth. How are you, sir? All the vision people we are seeing there in those days telling me that I should be looking in that corner. Everything, I put them behind me. I say, hey, I beg. Hello. Thank God our own self was even manifested. Some they will hide it. Hello. So you see that sometimes when somebody opens his mouth to speak, you can tell the quality of his soul. Yeah. The more you open his mouth to speak, you can tell the quality of the person's soul. Because your words can betray you. And your words can also help you. Sometimes you don't need to, figure out how the person. Just get into conversation with the person. While you are talking with the person, you know the person. Oh, did I complicate? Most young guys make this mistake. When they meet a lady for the first time, or they meet a lady for the second time, the third time, their mind is just about sex, 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 sex. Is that all you are looking for? Or maybe you are a guy looking for somebody to marry, and you have this idea, anytime you are with the person, it's your emotions that are communicating with the person. You just get into a necessary problem. That is not what you need. Try to find out what the person's soul is made of. Engage in conversation. As you are talking, the person will be revealing himself. As you are talking, the person is revealing himself. As you are talking, the person will reveal himself to a point that you will not tell yourself, let me put a break. True of us? Is that true? The same thing to the girl. As you are talking with a guy, you are talking with him. Don't let the guy to be touching you. That's not why you came. You know why? Because you as a lady, touch can trigger you. So as the guy brings down and tries to touch you, knock it. Let's talk now. He said, no, I don't have time to talk. Talk. He said, but why talk? Talk. Because it's since I talk, I will know you. Say, yeah. Did I get this one? Talk. Someone say, I don't know what to say. Why not? Invent something. Hello. Some will shout. The next thing they say, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you 20 times. Is it the emotion that is talking, or you want to hear what the person will say? The person say, I don't have anything to say. Ask him question. Hello. I said, I've run out of ideas. I've run out of questions. So the only idea now is in your head, I miss you. I love you. I miss you. I love you. It's not communication. It's expression of emotion. Say, I hear this one. Hello. Hello. Talk. Talk. Throw hard questions sometimes. Hear how the person will respond. Then nod your head. This one is responding like this. So that means this one now is a revelation of this person I'm talking to. Yeah, you see. Did I get you? Hello? Too many things can bring out talk. And too many questions can trigger something. Did I communicate? Guys, I repeat. Don't be too emotional. Pocket your emotion. Hello? Hear the person as the person talks. Then also hear the spirit in your mind. Did I get you? If you let it emotional, what will happen is that it will becloud your reason for trying to be together. And emotions don't last. Because when you marry, eventually discover that emotions is not what keep marriage. I love you soon. The man will say, it's every time I will tell you I love you. You already there now. The woman says every time. You're already there now. Because by then you have exhausted emotion. Hello. Tap your neighbor for me. Be a good conversationalist. And learn to talk. 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 Say again. Talk. 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 Tell him, if you can't talk, talk. Yeah. Some guys will tell you, say, me, I don't talk too much. Me, it's action. When the guy tells you that it's action. Run away from it. Hello. As a girl, always moving to talk. He said, no, I don't like to talk. Give me his action. That means something is wrong. Hello. Let him talk, because it's through talking you will know who you are dealing with. An animal is revealed by his words. True of us. If you are somewhere, you're hearing, pop, 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 pop. You know it's a cock that is there. If you are hearing, whoa, 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 it's a dog that is there. If you are hearing, meh, it's a goat that is there. So you see, there's a goat in every man. There's a dog in every man. There's a fowl in every man. Are you getting me that? There's a cat in every man. Thank you. There's a tiger in every man. There's a lion. Are you with me that? So as you are talking, the various animals shade will be manifesting. But if you are not talking, they will not manifest. So yeah. Some men are lion. And some women are lioness. So bring out the lion in them. True talk. Ask questions. So must I hear? Now, the prophetic description of the communication line, because we are talking about restoring the communication line. I've talked about communication, what communication is. Now, we are talking about the communication line. What is it? Prophetically speaking, or supernaturally speaking, the communication line is a fragile, invisible thread that connects to all human texts, wavelengths, devices, and gadgets. I take it again. The communication line is a fragile, invisible thread that connects to all human thoughts, all wavelengths, devices, and gadgets. The medium of exchange in communication is language. Until a language is expressed, it is not a communication. Making a sound is not a communication. It must be a language. Something that is audible and something that can be understood. I thank the Lord who gave language to man and gave man the ability to write language. There are many languages that came into this world, but only the people, the tribes that were able to write it are the ones that preserve the language. Did I communicate? Did I say something? Yes. So many languages came into this world, but only those who were able to write it are the ones that preserve the language. Till this very day, the language Adam spoke up to the time of Noah was not written. It was lost. But by the time Abraham emerged, too many languages were in the world. So some of the tribes, the people, began to write their languages. And for the time of Abraham, they were writing languages. And those languages were preserved. The Hebrew language from Mesopotamia was preserved from that time till this very day. Most of the languages we are speaking today were not originally there. During the time of the dispersal at the Tower of Babel, they were not there. Today, you and I speak English. If you have done a little bit of history, if you have done a little bit of language history, you know that the English language first has its oldest form in the tongue of the Saxons. 3 tribes came out of the northern Germanic and present-day northern Germany. Northern Germany. Those 3 tribes are Angles, Saxons, Jutes. Shortly after the fall of the Roman Empire and the demise of the Roman rule in Britain, then known as Britannia, that is about 401 AD or 410 AD. As the Roman rule died in Britannia, some tribes from northern Germany, Jutes, Saxons, Angles, entered Britannia through the North Sea and the English channels. And there they were hired by the Britons to enable them to fight against invading Danes or Vikings. As they were fighting the Vikings, after some time they betrayed the Britons and took over the cities and took over the land and then began to fight the Vikings. And the war between them and the Vikings lasted for more than 500 years. Hello. But one good thing about them was that they were Christians. They were converted by the Roman Catholics. Converted by Roman Catholics, and they became Christians. And they vowed that they will Christianize the whole of Britannia, which is presently today England. Hello. But their opposition was the Vikings from Denmark. Danes. They used to call them Danes or Northmen. And this fight between them lasted for over 500 years. Because those people were heathens. They don't like Christianity. They are barbarians. Idol worshippers. So they kept fighting the Saxons. Then the Angles and the Saxons came together. They became Anglo-Saxons. Hello. Now, among them was a famous king known to history as Alfred the Great. He was a man who was given into writing. So he was the one who was able to tell some of his subjects to write some of the experiences they had with the Vikings. As they were writing, they were able to preserve the Anglo-Saxon language, which is not English language, given to him. That's how they preserved it. That's how today you and I can speak English. Thanks be to them. If they didn't preserve it, you won't have it. Did you see that now? If they didn't write it, you won't have it. So, language is a spiritual thing. It's a gift of tongues from heaven. And that's in the beginning, we all had one language. But towards the time of the building of Tower of Babel, we had many languages. Now, by the time the Pentecost came, that same one language was not given to us spiritually. That's why today, you and I, once you are baptized in the Spirit, you begin to speak in tongues. La cobro shato bara, kobarika suntara kotobara, e cobra satara, mato roba shatara, gabrabara. That language you are speaking is not an earthly language, it's an heavenly language. Meaning that the original language Adam was speaking when he was on earth is the language you are speaking in tongues. Say, I hear this word. Hello. Hello. That means at Pentecost, God brought all languages into one and gave it to you. That's why inside that one there's Chinese. Inside that one there's English. Inside that one there's Igwere. Inside that one there's Okreka. Inside that one there's Bibio. Inside that one, all the languages are inside. Some of the ones was arguing with me. He said, Pastor, I don't believe in speaking in tongues. I said, what? So what do you believe? He said, because in those days, if you read the Bible, they said, as they were speaking, there were people that were understanding what they were saying. But today, now you go to church, you see people speaking in tongues, you don't understand anything. They say, that one is just nonsense. I say, hey, sir, please take it easy. Don't try to, be an expert in what you don't know. He said, but somebody should be able to understand what they are saying. I said, no. That the interpretation of tongues is a gift. Hello. Hello. Now, the people, Peter, James, John, were not speaking Aramaic, Greek, all in tongues. They were speaking in tongues. Are you hearing me now? But the gift of interpretation was not given to the hearers. So some were able to hear their own language inside Arabic. Some had their own language inside Greek. Some had their own language inside Latin. Some had their own language inside. Are you with me now? So the Libyans that were there were also hearing their own language. And it was a sign unto them because it was God who performed the miracle for them to be able to understand what Peter, James, and John were speaking in tongues. Hello. Hello. Did I get you? Tongues is not German. Tongues is not French. It's an heavenly language. Speak it. If anybody around you does not understand, leave him. Because understanding is also a gift from the Holy Spirit, which is interpretation. If the Holy Spirit does not give interpretation, forget it. Keep speaking. Let no one belittle your tongues. It's a gift from heaven. That is one language alone, carrying all the languages of the earth. So the medium of exchange in communication is language. Language is an information processor, a conveyor, a channel. It's a signal communicator. Your communication can be linked or cut off depending on the actors. A language is a primary channel of communication. If there is no language, there is no communication. And language is audible, clear, understandable, transforming. A language is not a thought. Thoughts are inaudible. All ideas, imaginations, dreams, aspirations, inspirations, visions are thought types. Thoughts are languages of the spirit that are perceivable, understood, interpreted, but they are not audible and they are not visible to the order. They are either consciously or subconsciously communicated. So we have channels of communication: language, thoughts, telepathy. Telepathy is a subconscious assimilation of a thought impulse from another else's mind without the aid of language. During telepathy, a man can receive from another else's mind what the other person is thinking. No matter the distance, without the aid of language. Some people who call themselves great prophets only do so by telepathy. They have built their consciousness to the point where they can pick signals and then communicate them. And then you think that they are being prophetic. How did he know? He knew by telepathy.